Chapter 11. New Plan. Drex studied the normal-looking sunglasses in his hands while waiting for Otto to answer his question on how he knew to wear them, but his response wasn't what he wanted. "No time to explain," Otto said, his German accent growing thicker in his heightened state of awareness. Having been in similar situations before, Drex chose not to press for answers till after they finished running from something he didn't understand. Up to this point, Drex felt he could trust the German commando's training, and he saw no reason to stop now. Every precaution Otto had taken had aligned with Drex's own instincts, including switching cars, which was what he assumed Otto was doing, pulling into an old factory outside of town. "We need to change. No cameras here." Drex noted that Otto's sentences had also become shorter, more to the point. It gave the German a tone of command that helped Drex to trust him, even if he was frustratingly enigmatic. Wasting little time after pulling alongside a sand-colored Land Rover, Otto exited from the driver's side and quickly walked to rear of the SUV. After one swift kick to its bumper, Otto bent over and retrieved the keys that had been jarred loose. Opening their vehicle's rear hatch, he reached inside, removing 2 gym bags while Drex and Spears scanned their surroundings for any signs of a threat. "Here, these will keep us from being spotted," Otto said as he peeled paper from sticky tape on the backside of a patch of skin-colored prosthetics before placing it over his cheekbone. As they watched Otto, Drex and Spears stole glimpses at each other and then looked back at Otto, who was placing another piece over his nose. At this point, Drex started to believe their training might have taken a less educated path when it came to disguising oneself. With the not-so-real-looking pieces Otto had placed on his face, Drex felt he had to say something. "You have anything more realistic? Those pieces are not going to fool anyone." Otto arched an eyebrow in confusion as he turned to Drex. "My friend, these are not meant to fool people. They will, however, work on the surveillance cameras, all over which operate with facial recognition programming. Have you not been informed of these?" Drex hated being caught out of the loop, especially when in a situation where he was speaking with another military special operator. Best to not directly acknowledge it and just find out what he needed to know. "So, you're saying they've placed surveillance equipment along millions of miles of road and nobody has spotted them?" Drex understood that in many cities, video surveillance equipment was prevalent, but outside of that, the main tracking could only be done with strategically placed cameras or aerial drones. Almost laughing as he spoke, Otto replied, the urgency in his voice evident. "I do apologize. Sometimes I forget how controlled information is in America. You see, there are not surveillance cameras mounted all over, but there are cameras everywhere. In order to control a world, you have to control information and track individuals. People are not going to just give mandatory updates on themselves, so a system of self-surveillance was created to keep man in check." Drex raised his hand to stop Otto as his mind flashed back to when he and Jake met for drinks just a few nights ago. "I was told." "And you just forgot?" Drex lifted his hand again. "No, not like that. The night our team was briefed on this mission, Jake, an old buddy of mine from the Rangers, met me for drinks. After 4 or 5 beers, he said something that at the time seemed strange. Friendly advice, Drex, don't use social media and be very aware of all cameras. At the time, I just figured it was the beer and a bit of Big Brother paranoia, but now I think he must have been warning me about the surveillance cameras I was planning on using." Otto nodded. "Yes, he was. What he didn't do so good of a job with was informing you that people surveil themselves. You see, surveillance cameras are everywhere. Each person has one in their phone, and every car with smart features has one in their bumpers and on their dashes. They say it's to assist with backing up and similar safety tasks, but it's all for surveillance on the cars around them." "Laptop cameras," Spears injected. When Drex gave her a puzzled look, she explained, "It's widely believed that the webcams and mics in people's laptops have been used to spy on them pretty much since their inception. That's why certain well-known figures have been known to cover theirs with tape while using their laptops." She shrugged. "I guess when you use something to spy on people, it's easier know when it's being used to spy on you. Otto tilted his head. His expression momentarily lightened with an impressed look of approval. Having heard enough, Drex picked up a prosthetic piece, pulled off the protective film paper from the adhesive, and placed it on his forehead. "Got any more of those sunglasses you have still not told me about?" "No, but we can stop and get some at the next gas station," Otto replied. "Gas station?" Spears questioned loudly. Drex narrowed his eyes at Spears. He had been about to ask the same question, but knew that now was not the time for them to lose their self-control. Seeing that her commanding officer didn't approve of her tone, Spears continued to apply facial pieces and again asked calmly, "You mean to tell me those are just everyday sunglasses with a green tint to them?" "Yes. All that's needed is for these invisible light beams those machines emit to be filtered. Green does just that." Otto finished his prosthetic applications before sliding the sunglasses over his masked facial features. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, machines? Those damn things are machines? Shit!" Upon seeing Drex glancing at her with a look that said, "Control yourself, Sergeant," Spears hastily added, "Sorry, sir." Still, from Drex's description, she never would have guessed that those things were even machine-like. Though the other two could not see behind his sunglasses, Otto rolled his eyes. "We have to move. I can explain in more detail later." Agreed. Drex knew that they were far from a safe distance away from the carnage that back at their hotel. With their facial dimensions and features changed, essentially camouflaging them from facial recognition software, Drex began contemplating completion of their mission. He also had to admit that after applying the final touches to his prosthetics, even individuals would not be able to identify them if they didn't look directly at them for very long. At last, they were ready to get moving. "What about the car?" Drex asked from the rear as Otto pulled away. Speaking with confidence of a man who has gone through this situation before, Otto replied, "It will take a long time for them to find it here." Satisfied with his new team member's decision, Drex thought it was time to put a plan together. "Otto, do you have secure communications?" Without saying a word, Otto held up a thick black pouch the size of smartphone. Drex reached forward to grab the pouch and then unzipped it, pulling out a phone with little bits of tape placed over the camera lens. "What's up with the case?" Drex inquired, not seeing anything special about either item to warrant such protection. Looking back to Drex through the rearview mirror, Otto replied cryptically, "You don't think cameras are the only ways they track you with personal devices, do you?" Drex was quickly seeing a world he thought he knew as simply not real. A world of 1984-level paranoia and conspiracy theories that he'd heard were discussed on what used to be the History Channel. "Great. We have communications. Now we need transportation to Afghanistan, and we sure as hell are not going to make it by driving. Any ideas?" "The only way is by ship, and it will take some time. We must stay away from any and all public transportation and high-populated facilities. These disguises will not last long." Drex liked the idea of ocean-going vessels, but also knew from experience that it would take much more time than they had. His fear with the plane was that after a few days they would be classified missing in action, and another team would be sent, one that would surely meet their same fate as those he left dead at the hotel. "No, it has to be faster. But I have nothing. I have been out of the loop, hidden away training the squad, and lost all contacts I once had." Up till a few days ago, Drex was sure he would never be operating in the field again since becoming an officer, and then being assigned to the newly formed 527th Space Aggressor Squadron. Who would have thought this shit would be going on, he thought, still in disbelief over everything that had transpired over the last 24 hours. Still new to the team herself, Spears wasn't sure if she should speak up with her idea. If she did, she didn't know how to address Drex. Were they still doing the casual thing as Undercover dictated, or were they back to Sir? After listening to a few ideas being batted back and forth, all of which were discarded, Spears decided to play it safe. "Sir, I may have an idea." Both men went quiet, having made no progress on a viable plan, and then Drex spoke. "Spears, when we are not at the base, Address me by Drex. Now, what do you have? Spears got right to her thought. There was this officer I dated for more than a year, but our military careers took us on different paths. However, we are still close, and I am sure he will help us if possible. Drex looked at Spears with a small smile of disbelief and teased, "By the book as you are you telling me that you fraternized with an officer, Spears?" Spears sputtered. "Oh, no, sir. I mean yes and no, Drex." Seeing that his attempt at easing the sergeant's tension made things worse, Drex cut her off. "Breathe, Spears. I don't care about that. What's your idea? How can this guy help?" Taking a few breaths, Spears composed herself before beginning again. "He's a pilot at the German Air Force stationed in Évreux, France, at Fauville Air Base. He flies the Lockheed Martin C-130J Super Hercules with supplies to United Nations troops in Afghanistan. We met on my first deployment to the Middle East and been in contact ever since. We can trust him, sir. Drex." Drex looked to Otto for any signs of disapproval. Seeing none, he then asked Spears while handing her the phone, "Think he will answer?" A large grin stretched across her face. "Oh, when I call, he answers." The grin disappeared from her face as she almost instantly regretted how she had spoken, as though she were on a night out with the girls. Her instinct was to bury her face in her hands in embarrassment, but she resisted. Ring, 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 ring. No answer. "Shit! Is it okay to text from this phone?" Spears asked Otto, as she realized that her friend wouldn't know it was her since she was not calling from her phone. Even as brilliant as she was, something about handsome men caused her personality to change to that of a valley girl. She knew it was just an act she put on to not cause men to feel intimidated, but at times she worried the persona was too good. "Yes, the phone is fully secured. It's no problem," Otto replied. Lighting up the touchscreen with swift-moving fingers, Spears typed, "Hey, flyboy, it's Jacqueline. Why you not answer? I am in town #overnight winky face." After pushing send, Spears looked to Otto and then Drex. "Shouldn't be long," she assured them. Drex began to ask, "How long?" But before he could finish, the phone rang. Spears let it ring 4 more times while Drex and Otto both resisted the urge to order her to answer, understanding that it was a tactic. "I'm sorry. I was just booking my flight back to the States since my Garrett didn't answer," Spears said when she finally picked up the phone, giggling. Drex wondered who the hell this woman was sitting in the passenger seat, because it was not the squared-away, highly intelligent sergeant he had become familiar with over the last year. Many times he had to play a role on missions, but never had he seen someone that was able to transform so smoothly. He was also impressed with how she moved conversations along without giving away any details of her true reason for calling. Finished with her conversation, Spears appeared embarrassed for her performance on the phone and knew there were going to be jokes coming her way. It was just life in the military, yet another reason she enjoyed it so much. The camaraderie was something unlike that achieved with any other group, so she waited. Otto was first to speak. "Doesn't the name Garrett mean rules by the spear?" "Yes," Spears quickly replied. Shaking his head, Otto replied with one word, "Goot." Drex, on the other hand, stayed mission-focused. "We have a ride?" Now back to her squared-away self, Spears replied, "He flies out in the morning. We should have plenty of time to intercept him before he leaves for Fauville Air Base. You get there in time. I will get us on that flight. It won't be my first time stowing away on a flight with him." A smile crept across her face, but before it was completed, she realized once again she was not out with the girls. "Really, Spears? Damn, you are full of surprises. Let's get this girl to her flight," Drex said with a little excitement, slapping the back of Spears's seat, signaling a job well done. Spears smirked a little and sat back to get some rest while she could. "We are roughly 9 hours out. Wake me if you need me to drive, Otto." "Oh, I am sure he will, Gumma Bärchen." Drex grinned as he repeated what he heard Garrett call Spears when they were talking. He didn't know a great deal of German, but he did know that meant something like gummy bear. Spears was thankful for the darkness, so neither Drex nor Otto could see blood creating a warm rose color in her cheeks. With the comment from her superior officer, she felt the tension melt away and quickly fell asleep with her head braced between the headrest and the door.